Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 335. Exploring Verdi Street. Pleasure was sequence 6 of the Demonist pathway. Klein had obtained its complete formula back when he channeled Madame Sharon's spirit. Although it was usually difficult to recall the exact details, and he had to rely on the help of dream divination to recall the memory, just hearing the main ingredient was enough to give him a sense of familiarity and make him form connections. He couldn't help but glance over at the buyer, confirming that he was male in terms of skin color, figure, voice, and unmasked facial features. The sequence prior to Demonist of pleasure is which, regardless of their gender, as long as they pass that, they would all become women. This person clearly isn't one. He hasn't become a witch yet, so why is he purchasing the main ingredient of a Demonist of pleasure? Could he be helping someone buy it? Is he the ally of some witch or a loyal subordinate? However, as a rather ancient secret organization, the Demonist sect shouldn't be lacking in the corresponding ingredients. With their natural disposition, it would be normal for them to use the beyonder characteristics left behind by former members to concoct the potions. Did the witch behind the buyer lose her connection with the organization? With these thoughts, Klein had the impulse to follow him. However, after careful consideration, he gave up on this idea. Ignoring the question on how he could bypass the precautionary measures of Eye of Wisdom and lock onto the other party's tracks, just the fact that the other party's situation was unknown, and with him not having the time to perform a divination, it was enough for him to choose to follow his heart's wishes. What if there isn't only one witch, but a beyonder who's much stronger? Moreover, it's a good thing for witches to advance to Demonists of pleasure. The former would cause calamities and harm many innocent people, but once they advance to the latter, their goal would be focused on pleasure. In simple terms, society would be less dangerous. Klein mumbled. An adult black widow spider silk gland was already considered to be relatively expensive and a rare beyonder ingredient. It was just like the thousand-faced hunter's mutated pituitary gland and the characteristic of a human-skinned shadow which Klein needed in order to ascend to sequence 6. It was almost equivalent to the cost of half a house in the capital, so the buyer didn't receive a satisfactory response. To be precise, no one responded. The atmosphere of the gathering fell silent until the plump apothecary started selling the medicine he brought. After the previous trials, he received quite a few repeat customers. In less than 3 minutes he had sold all the goods he could sell and collected more than £50 in cash. As Eye of Wisdom announced the end of the gathering, each participant left through different passages in a different order and at different intervals. Klein was in the middle, and after he reached a secluded street, he took off his disguise and immediately set off for East Borough, arriving at Black Palm Street on that cold and foul-smelling night. On the way, he had purchased an underarm holster. He entering his rented one-bedroom apartment. Without taking a break, he took out his revolver and opened the metal box containing the beyonder bullets. He then took out 2 purifying bullets, 2 demon-hunting bullets, and 1 exorcism bullet. Then, he loaded them one by one into the chamber. Taking a pose, he tested the feeling and whether he could fire normally. Klein inserted the revolver into his armpit and busied himself with other preparations. For example, he checked to see if there was anything unusual about the all-black eye in the iron cigar case. He also placed Azek's copper whistle in the metal box containing the bullets, and with the help of holy night powder, he created a sealed wall of spirituality that stuck to the surface of the box, completing the shielding of the ancient, delicate copper whistle. After confirming the shapes and positions of the 3 charms, Klein headed above the gray fog for divination. Then, he put on his cap and went out again. His target was 32 Verdi Street, which was south of the bridge. It was where the thief had found the master key. There might be clues to the apprentice formula or clues to related items there. It was somewhere that Klein had long wanted to explore, but he suspected that the man who died a tragic death had turned into a wraith-like creature. He didn't dare to take action until he bought purifying bullets. A magician never performs unprepared. Before the steam subway, the most economical mode of transport, had stopped running, Klein arrived south of the bridge before transferring to a public carriage and arrived near Verdi Street. It was already late at night, and a chilling drizzle filled Backland. There were barely any pedestrians on the street, and the light from the gas lamps was blurred by the liquid on the glass, making everything seem dreamlike. Klein circled the area and observed Unit 32's situation. He walked to its side, climbed to the second floor, and easily entered the target's interior from the balcony door, which clearly couldn't be closed by the thief from before. He didn't bring the master key, fearing that the item would cause an abnormal chain reaction here. The layout of the house was very normal. A corridor that connected the two balconies ran through the entire second floor. There were bedrooms, a bathroom, a solarium, and an activity room lining the sides. With the help of the crimson moonlight shining in from the balcony, Klein saw that all the doors had been opened. All kinds of items were thrown on the ground in disarray. It should be the result from the thief from before. He couldn't take away all the items, so he could only search for the most valuable ones. However, with the master key, there's no need for him to open doors. Klein went through the rooms, one by one, looking for things that might be involved with mysticism. After an unknown period of time, a black-gloved Klein arrived at the staircase without any success. Just as he took 2 steps forward, a figure suddenly appeared before him. The figure was pressed against the wall at the corner of the stairs. Its back was facing Klein. Its black hair was so thick that it almost covered its neck. Klein, who had long activated his spirit vision, didn't even have time to observe, for the figure suddenly moved. His neck creaked as he turned his head while his back remained facing the second floor. Amidst the hazy, weak, and illusory crimson illumination, the figure's eyes were bulging out of their sockets, filled with fear. Thud! Thud! The 2 eyeballs hit the ground. Bang! The figure's head fell off its neck and hit the wooden staircase. He's long dead. He's without any spirituality glow. Klein watched and judged calmly, as though what had just happened was a farce. He guessed from the details of the man's old black clothes and the number of rooms open on the second floor, and he decided that this was another burglar, one who had visited the house after the previous one. Unfortunately, he wasn't that lucky. Could it be that the master key was actually restraining the danger here, and when it was taken away, pandemonium was set loose? Klein drew his revolver, adjusted the chamber to the firing position, and cocked the revolver. He walked up the stairs to the corpse. He squatted down and examined it briefly, but he couldn't find anything other than the fact that his neck had been twisted. After pondering for a few seconds, Klein straightened his body and carefully went down the stairs. Even though he was standing on a wooden staircase, he didn't make any creaking sounds. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. After walking down the flight of stairs, he reached the ground. In front of him was a corridor that connected the 2 sides. The crimson moonlight shone in, outlining the outline of the balcony. The doors on both sides of the corridor were wide open, revealing a messy scene of scattered items. There was no living room, dining room, or kitchen here. This is the second floor. Klein went down from the second floor, only to return to the second floor. Throughout the entire process, he didn't discover anything out of the ordinary. Klein didn't panic as he slowly turned around. Behind him, there was a staircase leading downwards. That is to say, my special ability can only resist the invasion of my beyonder powers through the use of beyonder powers such as dreams and spirit channeling, or for me to realize that the environment I'm in does not belong to the real world. I'll still be influenced by hallucinations. Klein took out his matchbox and took out a few matches with his gun-carrying hand. He continued down, throwing a match down every few steps. Once again Klein came to the corner of the stairs and saw the dead body with its head separated from its body. At this moment, a cold wind blew across the back of his neck, causing his hair to stand on end. "Pa!" Klein snapped his fingers, and a red flame soared from behind him, soaring toward the ceiling. Those flames seemed to be a monster that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, but the flames didn't burn anything. Klein was about to turn around and look with his spirit vision when his body suddenly froze, as if he had fallen into a lake frozen in winter. He couldn't help but tremble as his left hand was slowly reaching for his neck as he forcibly suppressed it. At that moment, Klein sighed softly. He forced his left hand into his pocket, removed the wall of spirituality, and opened the metal box containing the bullets. Next, he held Isaac's copper whistle, took it out, shook it, and threw it into the air above the stairs. In almost an instant, he felt the coldness and stiffness in his body disappear. In his spiritual perception, a sinister and cold mass leaped out like a dog fetching a ball as it pounced at Isaac's copper whistle. Klein smiled, raised his right hand, aimed at the copper whistle, and pulled the trigger. He softly said, "Bye-bye." Bang! The pale gold purifying bullet flew out and accurately hit that cold and indistinct object. A blood-curdling screech sounded out as the golden flames outlined a human silhouette in midair. Under the bright and warm light, all the coldness and evilness quickly disappeared. Clang! Isaac's copper whistle landed on the ground, bounced a few times, and rolled to the living room on the first floor. When Klein looked around, he saw that things were now significantly different. For example, the head of the corpse wasn't separated from its body. He had strangled himself with his own hands. Heh, it really is easy when you're prepared. Klein chuckled and went down the stairs again. He successfully reached the first floor and picked up Isaac's copper whistle. He then swung it twice to see if there were any other wraiths or shadows here. After confirming that there were no more problems, he decided to head straight to the basement. As he walked down the flight of stairs and went through the door, he saw the picture he had seen in his dream divination. He saw the brown notebook on the long table.